Monday, the 28th of March 2022. We are still in March, which means I'm still celebrating my birthday. Therefore, for those of you who were not able to send me my birthday gift, you know what to do. Do the needful. Do the right thing. Do the right thing before you die. I don't quit the new year now. That's what I told. As somebody can I jam a wing.
So one year could if you mekwan.
Mekwan. Oh, nice one. Hey, you the travel. You the. Who feel outside? No. But what did you do?
What did you have?
Hey, Scaffold.
No. I think I
don't know what you do for play.
I live right behind when I was young because my father was a civil servant.
We don't care about that one. Oh, we care about this.
I was telling you
no, we didn't ask.
Walking distance. I would choose that it was a walking distance from my home. So I go for 2 car free a crab and
I'm Asama can say. You can't say now to one and now to because where did you order?
Several times.
And also where did you order? That's it. And I conclude this year. I said the hours. And Desmond is with us in the studios. You know, Desmond is now a freelance politician. So all political parties who share his ideals and ideologies, I'm sure he will, if you are able to convince him, he may join you because he's a freelancer. No, so. Yeah. So I'm your agent. I'm your agent. I'm looking at the various political teams.
That's it.
And then, you know, I will sell it to the highest bidder.
You have 10% share in it.
No. When you get paid for doing a job,
it's always it's fulfilling. Yes.
You don't just, sometimes I say that even though it's wrong, but I always say this that look, people say, oh, Dubai. Look, if the people are comfortable, they will not question what you use their money for.
Yeah, that's it.
Sure. It may sound very lame, okay? But if people are comfortable, if he wakes up in the morning, he finds something to eat, or also talk about it,
that's it.
If he wants to travel, he can travel.
Yeah.
He can take care of his family and buy a house, whatnot. Yeah. Do you think he would care?
Really doesn't.
No, he really doesn't. It's comfortable. I mean, it may sound lame, but that's the reality anyway. Prince Mahmoud Idrisu, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
We meet for the first time.
Sure.
How is Wa?
By the grace of God, we are living by His grace.
Hey! So if the grace is taken out, you can't live.
We are almost at the verge of just existing.
Hey! You exist, you are not living.
At the verge of just existing.
So you are in between living and existing.
It's just a curtain.
So when we raise a curtain,
that's just all.
What a wow!
Yes.
Dr. Francis Che, a very good friend of mine. I like him so much. One of the very nicest people in MPP. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
At least he likes to take criticisms.
Okay.
Many of the MPP guys don't take criticisms.
At all.
Yeah, they'll come at you.
At all.
But welcome.
Thank you.
So, where did you go?
I've been traveling.
So it means they were not inviting you, Should I deal with my producer?
Oh, no, they invited me a few times, but I was out of town. I was moving. I think that last week I was supposed to be on, but I had a slight hitch at dawn, so I had to defer it. So
at dawn.
I had a slight There was a family emergency.
Of course, there would be a family emergency.
You might not have.
But you overslept,
If you want to be safe, don't explain.
It's even safer to explain than
you overslept,
No.
Oh, okay. You woke up early.
I woke up earlier than I was supposed
to. Go early.
To take care of very, very urgent stuff.
Of course. It's very important to always wake up.
And it took away my whole morning. So
why wouldn't it? Very important issues to attend to.
But, no, emergency. It was an emergency.
ECOWAS sets timelines for coup states. That was a Republic Press. 28th COVID-19 update. Ghana opens borders. Face masks no longer mandatory, says President Nana Akufo-Addo. TUC minority unhappy over 15% reduction in fuel prices. Ghana records 266,000 abortions in 4 years. Republic Press. Why are they picking Republic Press this morning like that? Why? There are some other stories. Government rolls out free TVET this year. We can look at that. the government is doing something small, we should at least praise them. Don't we have daily graphic? Where is daily graphic?
The government also talked about
Daily
the
graphic
Agenda
is,
111, right?
Yeah.
He's still talking about it.
Yes, he's still talking about it. Oh, why is he saying he's still talking about it?
It's feasible.
He said
What?
he will make sure he commission it before he leaves office.
Eh.
Yes. So
You see, and I think that there's this story on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper which requires some discussions. Indeed, the Chamber of Mines CEO is, of course, it's something that we know. But he's saying that the Minerals Fund must provide economic livelihood for mining communities. I think that we have to touch on that after we deal with the African story. ECOWAS set timelines for coup states, and I think they were in Ghana sometime last week.
Sure.
Creating unnecessary traffic in town. Already the country hot. The routes that we use to go and do they
block the routes.
Sometimes you don't understand all these things. So they are giving them ultimatum. Do they think that they will yield?
Oh, my son.
There's no do. Given, for instance, the Guinean coup d'etat and how popular it was, the popularity of the Guinean coup d'etat, right, is so prominent that it outweighs some democratically elected leaders' popularity, especially on the within the West African sub-region. You understand?
Yeah.
So why then would they sit in the comfort of their living rooms here in Accra to suggest to other countries how to govern themselves, albeit that they've subscribed to the protocol which must govern the democratic experiment of the sub-region. But nonetheless, he who feels it or he who knows it feels it.
Yeah.
Not so?
Yes.
So if the people are not complaining, if the citizens are not complaining, if they are comfortable with the military leadership that they have, why must anybody worry?
Kwame,
Yes, sir.
Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning to my co-panelists. My first time meeting both of them. Yeah.
Oh, you don't know
I know
Francis
him.
Che?
I know him, but this is my first
First
time
time
meeting
meeting
him
him.
on this show.
Okay.
Monday morning like this.
Prince Mahmoud is a big man.
A beautiful.
We have different types of big men.
Yeah.
We have big men.
But when Prince is added to the name, it becomes
No,
more.
but when we stretch the big
Yeah.
to make it big man,
Okay.
then he's a very big man. So he's a
in
big.
physical.
Okay.
Oh no. That's a smart one.
I like that.
Big man in pocket too.
Yeah. So how is Wa?
By the grace of God.
Okay. It's been a while I visited
You
the place,
visited
yeah.
there. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
One of these days I need to go.
Oh, they have decided.
You know, it's my second home.
I mean, look, Dr. Rashid Papu himself, Dipku Ishmael, all those people, they've not invited me to her.
Oh.
Small plate to give
Including
them.
my own chairman.
I'm telling you, small
Including my own chairman.
Benamona wants me to come to her on a horseback.
That's what he has. That's what your chama has. Yeah, he's a horseman, so.
How, why does he want to punish me like this?
Right? Because all the way from
From
Accra.
Accra to her.
It's a good exercise, you know. It's
No,
one of the best
absolutely.
exercises you
Absolutely,
can do.
absolutely. But the thing is that Dr. Rashid Papu and then Prince and Dipku Ishmael were out traffic. They've not invited me. Oh, they've not invited me.
Maybe we will
Well,
have to.
as you speak now, I believe they are listening to you.
But you should tell them that I'm not coming on the horseback.
I should tell them.
Tell them.
What you have is what you give to your
No,
visitor.
then I will take. But let's look at the substantive issue at hand.
Yes.
sir.
So, Kwame, before I dealt it with ECOWAS, let me say a very good morning to my people up there, Ofie. Especially Adoso, the people of Adoso. Kwame, I think one of these days I will take you to Adoso.
You people don't mention. You just
No.
All of you have been promising.
No, Kwame.
You
After
just take
this,
me.
after this one, from here to Adoso is just about 1 hour drive.
So now can you
Oh no, you can go with your car. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you fuel the car.
I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I just want you to go and have a look at Adoso Township. In fact, they need serious road repairs. and very soon there's going to be a homecoming in Adoso, and you are going to be invited. So just get ready. I know what I'm saying. Kwame, back to ECOWAS. But Kwame, how many times have I been telling you that for me, ECOWAS is only on paper, but reality, it doesn't exist. You know why? Spending all these monies, coming down to have a meeting in Accra, because ECOWAS chair is here. And at the end of the meeting, the communique that came out was they are giving them ultimatum for them to, return to civilian rule. You are in Ghana. You are giving somebody in Guinea, Mali, Burkina, that at the end of this month or at the end of this year, return to civilian rule. Massa, will they work? Will it work? Sometimes when our leaders behave this way, I ask serious questions as to why would they go on this tangent. Is it because they are scared themselves? Because if you are not scared that what has happened in your neighboring country can happen to yours, why would you call for a meeting and come out with these measures? Instead of us to think about how we can be able to, do trade so that our neighboring countries can be able to bring what they have into our country, just as the European unions are doing. All that we sit down to discuss is about coup. So, in a nutshell, nothing comes out of it.
Yep.
We are here talking about coup, yet our borders are closed. And we are complaining that there's no money in the system. Meanwhile, if you had opened the borders earlier on, you could have gotten some revenue from the borders. But all that you are interested is that people should return back to civilian rule. In any case, the big question is, the people themselves in their country, have they, come out to say that, look, the people ruling us, we don't need them again? I don't think Guinea, the people of Guinea, the people of Burkina Faso, the people of Mali are complaining. Are they? If really they are complaining, then we have every cause to say that, look, the way the people are complaining, let's go and assist. But as it stands now, it looks like they are comfortable. Because for me, I see it as one of the usual meetings that they normally have and come out with communique, because after all, they have days that they need to meet. And if they are not able to meet, they can't say that, oh, we were supposed to have met this day and we couldn't. So let's go have a meeting and talk about these coup d'etats and what have you. At the moment, all that we need is that we don't want any coup d'etats in West Africa. How do we prevent that? We prevent that by ensuring that the basic needs of the citizens are met. And what are some of the basic needs? It cuts across. People are feeling the heat all over. A few people are enjoying. And if a few people are enjoying, people will just rise up and do whatever they want to do. And so for me, these timelines and giving them ultimatum is not the solution. The solution is that the leaders themselves, chopping the money left, right, center, and leaving the ordinary citizen to struggle for his or her own life, is what they need to tackle. And how they can be able to help them to be able to get their 3 square meal daily. All the coup d'etats that happened, what was the cause? Come in, what was the cause? Is it not this same issue of hardship? Just few people are enjoying, and at the end of the day, somebody somewhere will just take up guns and say, look, the way you are mismanaging the economy, we need you out. And still people are mismanaging the economy. And it is happening all over. It is not only in Ghana, all over West African countries. You go to Nigeria, it's there. You go to Cote d'Ivoire, it's there. And you ask, these leaders, what are they doing when they come together? What measures do they put on the table to ensure that their citizens have the kind of peace the kind of stability that they can enjoy in their countries. All that they talk about, coup. Nobody should dare venture and make any coup. Meanwhile, the way you are ruling the country calls for coup. And so for me, I think that they ought to look at the root cause, how it can be tackled, before they gather and tell people that, look, we are giving you this timeline to go and return the country to civilian rule. What if they return the country to civilian rule and the same person or the one who takes over behaves the same way as the previous one? Won't somebody else somewhere get up and take guns again? So we need to look at the root cause of it, tackle it, have a way of solving it before we come out with these timelines. Because for me, always I'll say, right, and I'll continue saying, ECOWAS is on paper. Okay. Reality, it doesn't exist.
Thank you very much. And quite frankly, Prince has not given a submission just yet, but he's receiving messages. You
can imagine.
Prince has not started, but he's receiving messages on Facebook. Quite interesting. It appears that people can no longer wait for Prince to give a submission. Yeah. So let me allow you advance your argument relative to this subject matter to which we are discussing, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will equally seize this opportunity to express our very pleasant greetings to our viewers across, and to start by saying that this particular issue of ECOWAS is a very worrying situation as far as the coup d'etats are concerned. But I will want to begin by saying that ECOWAS has become a very reactionary organization instead of being proactive. And normally, if you have a body that is supposed to play a proactive role, and that body turns out to be reactionary, these are some of the results that you get. It is not a pleasant thing, we are told, because I'm sure maybe not all of us witnessed, what's the name, the heydays of the coup d'etats. Maybe I stand to be corrected. We might have just come in it small, read a lot about it, but the stories that comes with it is not a good thing. So under a very normal circumstances, emphasis on the word normal circumstances, we will not wish that any country, be it West Africa, East Africa, or North Africa, or even Central Africa, to find itself having to be led by a coup regime. That notwithstanding, we must also agree that nothing happens for nothing. There is always a trigger to anything. In other words, nothing happens by coincidence. Sometimes we see it as coincidental, but there is always something that triggers it. I will want to admonish, maybe using this platform, that ECOWAS as a body which is supposed to lead us politically and business wise, like markets within the West African region, they should try as much as possible to reverse back to their original status of being proactive. All these coup d'etats we are discussing, I think about 3 of them in a space of 1 year: Mali, Guinea, and our neighboring Burkina Faso. The signals were very clear. It didn't happen at a go. Signals were there. Issues that caused it emanated. People were watching on. Leaders who were supposed to act were not, doing their very best to make sure that these things don't, happen. But I would want to twist the conversation a bit. Is it by coincidence or is leadership failure that within a space of less than 2 years, for a very long time in our history as a region, when I say a region, ECOWAS for that matter, we have not recorded these kind of turbulence in terms of change of government from civilian-led and to military rule. It's not by coincidence. I think that leadership has failed us. Leadership is very critical in everything that you do. Look, I have always likened, leadership to leadership and the existence of any organization to the body of a human being. Look, you can find all kind of human beings. You can find people existing without limbs. You can find people existing without both limbs and legs, without eyes, ears, but you can never find anybody existing without the head region. What it means is that there is something very critical and important in the head that if it doesn't function well, the whole body doesn't function well. So I think that leadership of ECOWAS within this past few years, unfortunately headed by our own president. That's the unfortunate part. I would have wished that if these failures were being recorded on leadership, it shouldn't have been our president. I mean, not happy but not also surprised, because even at his own backyard, he's unable to manage things very well. Look, let's take the case of Ghana, for example. ECOWAS is calling for immediate transfer of power from military to civilian regime. Let's look at it practical. How feasible is that? Is that going to solve the problem permanently? Why is Ghana so cherished for our democratic practices? I think it's possibly because we had a coup d'etat, or maybe some people may decide to call it revolution, 31st December 1981, which traveled somewhere to 7th January 1993. I think within that period, we were able to build a very resilient system that when we migrated to civilian rule, it is now difficult, even under all these circumstances that we find ourselves, it is becoming impossible practically to reverse back to military rule. The reason being that a very solid foundation was achieved within that period. Because look, whether we like it or not, whether it was pleasant or not, but that period, is one of the longest. If you take the history from 1966 coup d'etat and on and on and on, the 1981 December 31st up to January 7th, 1993 happens to be the longest. And it was able to stabilize the situation. Let's look at the previous ones. How long did those, military regimes survive? When they handed over power, how quick was it for a different set of armed men to come and take over power again? So for me, in as much as I agree that it is not the very best option for any country now, but sometimes we have things that become necessary devil. You find a devil which is necessary for you to live with. You don't like it, but as it stands, you have no option than to just go by it. Look, maybe if we are to also look at the other side of the arguments and add some logic to it, we are being told by our elders most often that you should live when you are cherished most. Maybe to the coup leaders or those who are leading those countries in this military regimes. Sometimes you don't overstay. When you achieve your aim, when you are sure that up to this point I have put in all the necessary checks, I have made sure that these wrongs that I saw and came in to correct, I have succeeded. It gets to a point that you just have to bow out, especially when you have achieved it. If you allow power to, as it were, like overshadow the purpose for which you staged that coup, then before you realize, the longer water stays in the mouth, the more it becomes saliva. So instead of having water, you have saliva in your mouth. I think that ECOWAS should be more proactive. They shouldn't always wait for some of these things to happen before they jump out and make all this noise. Look, any point or any time that you have the people, when I say the people, the citizens, the masses, losing hope in leadership is very, very dangerous. I think up to this point, even our current ECOWAS arrangement, leadership and everything, the trust the citizens have for that organization is dead gone. To the extent that even ECOWAS own decisions that are made at the end of their meetings and all those things, the ECOWAS chairperson and his country can boldly flout them. Even when he chaired some of these, I'm sure that will be the second issue we'll have to look about. I mean, look at concerning this COVID issue. So for me, I think that it's high time ECOWAS reverse back to its original roots, take a very proactive position, and in another sense too, they should try as much as possible to do some form of negotiations and engagements with some of these leaders of the coup d'etat. Very important. If you sit, how far have you engaged them? That is very important. How far have you engaged them as a body? Well, if the engagement comes in a form of threats, because currently these sanctions that are being placed on Mali and what's the name, Guinea, you will want to ask yourself, what impact does it have on the economy of these two countries? And quite surprisingly and strangely, Burkina is here to receive some of these sanctions from ECOWAS, and it's and I mean it's raising a lot of questions. Why have you placed these sanctions on Guinea and Mali? And I mean, playing romance with Burkina.
Yeah, I think the most important substance to which your submission refers, in my estimation, has got to do with the purpose behind these coup d'etats.
Yes.
And oftentimes, and I'm not blinded by the fact, or it's not lost on me, that it is quite clear that, you know, the ECOWAS leaders and all of those people are appreciative of the reasons, you know, whether particular reasons or generalized reasons why some of these coup d'etats occasion. But it is not an end in itself. See, it must go beyond trying to find solutions to the problems which confronts the people, thereby addressing those teething challenges. Yeah. You know, that
which is very important.
Which is very crucial.
And
so it's not enough.
And that makes you proactive.
Absolutely.
It means that you go ahead of the problems that
but maybe Dr. Che will perhaps in this submission look at this for us. That which has been, albeit that there's no real substantive analysis, or if you will, research-based analysis to support this. But the argument has been that if you look at the leadership of ECOWAS, they themselves are complicit of the things that they are complaining of. If you look at the president of Togo, he has been in power for God knows how many years. And oftentimes when he's about to exit, he changes the constitution, he comes back, and nobody does anything about it. Nobody says anything. If you look at, is it Ouattara? The Ivorian president, what's his name? Ouattara. Right?
Yeah.
Look at what he's been doing in Ivory Coast. You know, just when there was going to be an election, he said that, oh, the leader of that party is dead. Then, you know, so he amends the constitution and he states and nobody says anything about it. So the question then becomes, Dr. Chairman, sir, what moral, legal, Francis J, yes, legal, what moral, legal, political, you know, right do these ECOWAS leaders have to first of all question the coup d'etats which, which have been achieved successfully by these countries, and secondly, to go on to place sanctions on these countries? Because in the final analysis, you are not punishing the leaders of the coup, you are punishing the citizens of those countries.
Thank you very much, Kewedi. I think good morning to our listeners and good morning to my fellow panelists. The topic and the discussion is very, very serious, and I'm always very passionate about it, because when it comes to coup d'etat, it comes to the embodiment of my background, my training and all that. As a military person, I understand what it takes to go through all this. And my experience in battles and, you know, war fronts and stuff, it makes me...
Oh, you're a military man?
Retired military.
Oh, I see. What's the SPC?
Specialist. So it makes me want to say that coups are not to be toyed with, not at all. There are things you never want to make it a conversation because it has a lot of excesses that come with it, no matter how little it is. People have suffered innocently, and you cannot, just like the president said, we cannot bring back lives. So any little thing that happens, when it comes to coup, people push it further than the plan of action they had determined. Because anybody who comes, you know, comes your way in the line of battle, you see him as an enemy. It doesn't matter how the person is perceived. No matter, as soon as the person crosses your path, you think she should be eliminated. And so these are the things that come with coups. And what we have experienced in coups for all these years tells us that we don't have to tolerate it. So I am of the view that the ECOWAS's reactionary measures, even though it hasn't been proactive, it's worth its salt because somebody must be told to put an end to something to ensure that a proper lifestyle is enjoyed. Because if there are military rulers and when we have coup leaders, there's a global sanction already. So it makes the economic management more difficult to deal with than we even know. And to add to it, when they don't conform to some of the things that have been laid out, then their local network, that is the ECOWAS, is also going to sanction them. So it's going to even make it more difficult for the people to live. We are doing cross-trading. We have a lot of international relations, a lot of diplomatic relations with other nearby nations. And so if these guys are restricting you after the IMFs and the World Banks and all those things have cut all these things from you, and your closest allies are also denying you, then you're going to make it more difficult because we have few African countries that do productions that can suffice them. So you can imagine what it entails when it comes to dealing with other neighboring countries. Questioning the guts of leaders who are part of the ECOWAS and are sanctioning these things, they are neither here nor there because two wrongs do not make a right. The fact that somebody has done something wrong, if he comes to his senses to see that yours is not right and you realize it's not right, you have to at least take a cue from it and correct it so we can have a better deal. Prince was talking about the fact that there was a stable situation in Ghana between the PNDC era and the NDC era. I would say that some of the things that happened during that time, if Liman's regime was not curtailed, Ghana could have moved a little faster because the democratic regime had ensured a certain thing. Democratically, when you establish a nation and you have to put things together, correct the wrongs and stuff, it takes a little time. So the timeline for which the PNDC had come to topple the PNC's era was a short time for them to ascertain a feasible realization of economic stability. So it was a gradual process because in democracies, things work such that Parliament would have to pass certain things, then the executive would have to ensure that some things are implemented. With a military rule, some things are hastened, but the spillovers are more disastrous than what we see as a result. But there's a lot of waste to achieving the things we want to achieve. So coups, passionately, I don't want anybody to think that coups are solutions to any problem, regardless of the situation, because no matter how bad it is, jaw is better than war. Discussing it, making sure things are hammered periodically and consistently, there will be something that will come up. Because if there are coups, first, there are distractions. to even rectify the distraction before you come into the mainstream to achieving anything, it's a lot of resources wasted and lives and all those things that come with it. Coups has a military aspect. They have an effect on the social lifestyle and the economic bedrock of the nation and the moral, decadence of the people. These are all things that can be affected when it comes to coups. So coups are not supposed to be tolerated. And the sanctions per the ECOWAS's meetings and the communique, I feel they must push it to ensure that those people are helped, those countries are assisted, because they need to know what they need, for which they will be able to transition into democratic governance, rather than just sitting back and hoping that they work at it. Because we have some benchmarks with what Ghana had done, what had gone through other countries and stuff, so they can study those things and put together a proper administration to help do the transition in the line of the period under discussion as a sanctioned period. So coups can never, under any circumstance, be praised at any point, because the distractions thereof is irreparable and you cannot play with it. You see, no matter how chill the place, you see how I'm sweating because I assume my element as being in the battlefield, being in the space of coup d'etat, where nothing is in order, everything is chaotic. It's the stronger person who has a weapon will tell you what to do regardless. So you don't want to be there. Let's have a democratic regime. Let's appreciate that people are being, cajoled to understand that what they have done, yes, is bad, but now it has to end so we can rectify all these things. For the people to understand that the coups are not the remedies to the problem. Because when the coups had come, have they assumed heaven yet? They have not. They are still going through a lot of challenges. And this time it's like you don't have a say as a citizen. What they are telling you is what you have to comply. There's no vote at any point in time. There's no parliament to discuss anything. There's no judiciary to sanction anything. It is like the survival of the fittest. And this is why we don't have to.
The question has always become, even with the existence of the things that you're talking about, how are the people governed? And so, I mean, it's a chicken and egg situation, very dicey. Is the deep blue sea and the hard place. So it's I don't know. So of course.
So just
yeah.
You see, he made a situation like it's chaotic. It creates a chaotic situation, isn't it? Today, we don't find ourselves in a military regime in Ghana, but we have exceedingly chaotic situations in Ghana. You see, it's exceeding. But look, sometimes you don't judge people just by maybe things are fine and all those things. Okay, as I speak, as we discuss these things here, we have to some extent more chaotic in quote situations than what we are experiencing in these military-led countries. The reason is this: you made a very critical point that, look, we shouldn't. It's not something anybody should rejoice over. And in my submission, I did indicate that, honestly speaking, under normal, and my emphasis was the word normal, under normal circumstances, nobody wish for it to happen. And I equally don't wish, because I want things to be normal. But when it gets to a point, I remember in the college, my senior housemaster used to tell me that if we push him to the wall so much that he will spring. And if he sprang, we will not like what will happen. When the citizens are pushed to certain level, they really don't care about that chaotic situation that you're referring to. They are ready to accept anything.
But see, there are certain things we have to also admit. Generally, I bring it down to the point that when you go to the university, they tell you any fight is automatic ratification. Do you think somebody will fight when it's harmonious?
No.
That's right. So there is a remedy to whatever the situation, no matter how hot it is. There is peace in Ghana in the sense that when you have a problem, you have a place to address. Okay. Do you think they have a place to address in the chaotic situation, in the coup situation? There's no court sitting for anything. So when there is a situation happening, when there's something going on between you and another person, you don't even have an ear to listen to your grievance for it to be even extended as delayed. You understand? So this is why we have to look at. And the point is that if we understand that such chaotic situation cannot be compared to any misunderstanding in a democratic environment, people are able to demonstrate. Nobody does anything. In a military junta, if you step out to do something, what is the rule?
Always
And it's not all the case. It's not all the case. It's not all the case. In the case of Guinea, it's not all the case.
It's not even about that. But in Guinea, it's about
Guinea's coup d'etat was
beyond that. I mean, beyond that,
There was no bloodshed.
with respect to Dr. Chi, he's talking about the fact that in military regimes, it is very difficult for people to demonstrate. We're in this country.
And it's not
in the sunrise days of the MPP, it was practically impossible for people to demonstrate. At some point.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying that it doesn't.
You will send a letter, the police will just go for court order to restrain you from.
And it was just so clear. It was just so clear.
But you see,
one is using force. One is using diplomacy.
And you see, the other aspect of
with
it
the
is
diplomacy, there is even a forum for somebody to tell you, even if it's a lie. Let's assume he's not telling you the truth. Even if the person is not telling you the truth.
And that is even worse.
With respect to you, though, when you sign up for a political experiment, it doesn't matter whether autocracy, whether democracy, whether oligarchy, whatever it is that we want to practice. When you sign up for those things, it attending functions, right, must follow.
Yeah.
Correct.
Or
very important
things which will ensure that practice is achieved must follow. If you say you are a democratic country,
Very good.
democracy brings in its wake several things which the people are entitled to by reason of the constitution.
That's
Beautiful.
So if the constitution prescribes that A, B, C, D must be achieved, there must be done, and there must be free and fair elections, and you are depriving the people from achieving free and fair elections, that means that you are going contrary to the tenets of the constitution, which means that you are not being democratic. So it is not just someone who say, oh, coup d'etat. But people are democratic. Yeah, you want to make a point.
See, on paper, we are seen as a democratic country. But practically, we are in a dictatorship.
How so?
Yes, because what is happening in the country is more or less like dictatorship. People cannot express their democratic rights.
How so? Because perceptions are not realities.
No, it's true. Look at what is happening. Look at what is happening. Like I said,
tourism.
these days, if you have an issue with a colleague and the matter goes to court and it has been settled, the next moment you see your colleague, you don't even greet him. Why?
It's a human
Because we are hiding behind the law and claim that all is well. Meanwhile, it's not true.
So does that affect?
You know the fact that this thing can kill somebody. You say, oh, because in law, it can happen. So we should just leave it to let it go. No. Sometimes we need to use, let me say, common sense to be able to judge things, and people will understand. But the way we hide behind law and claim that all is well, it's not ordering well for us. That's why I'm saying that on paper, democracy, but in reality,
let's go for this quick commercial. on our return, we're going to be looking at some other issues. Like I said, we're going to be looking at what has been said by the Chairman of Mines CEO. I think it's very profound. Minerals Fund must provide economic livelihood for mining communities. We'll touch on that briefly, but significantly, we're going to be looking at the 28th COVID-19 update, where Ghana has opened its borders. Face masks no longer mandatory, says President Akufo-Addo. I want to ask this fundamental question, even before I go for this quick commercial break. That now that we have opened the borders, are the people who got stuck in the other countries, okay, would they be allowed to now come back to Ghana and get their Ghana card and get their voters ID card so that they'll be able to exercise their democratic right in the next elections? This is a very harmless question that I'm asking. Quick commercial break. Please don't move a muscle. It gets very interesting after this.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasaco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
We are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is undoubtedly the best newspaper review segment here on the continent, actually, and in Ghana. Number 2, Minerals Fund must provide economic livelihood for mining communities, just as cocoa money must be used to take care of the cocoa farming communities.
And are they being taken good care of?
I mean, that is why I want us to discuss these matters.
As we speak, you know, every time you talk about cocoa, I have a big interest in it because my grandfather was a cocoa farmer and my father became a cocoa farmer and myself I'm a cocoa farmer. Right. So you can imagine the interest I have in cocoa. As we speak, they are still owing cocoa farmers. As we speak, you take your cocoa to the cocoa shed and there's no money. And people sit in Accra and claim that all is well. And I'm saying a time will come, the cocoa farmers will walk march all the way to cocoa house here and demand their money because the cheating is becoming too much. You see, I have no problem when we talk about setting up fund. Look, in those days when we were attending secondary school, there was a cocoa scholarship.
Yes.
Ask yourself, where are those scholarships? And even if the scholarship even exists, who and who are benefiting from it? Somebody sitting somewhere in Accra, his ward will be benefiting from the cocoa scholarship. Meanwhile, the farmer who is producing the beans is not benefiting. And this takes me to Tetekwashi, cocoa farm here at Mampong. Masa, if you go there, you cry. There's not a single paper to demonstrate that indeed this man brought cocoa from Fanandipo. Meanwhile, there is a correct edifice. When you are outside, you see the building, very nice. But when you enter, there's not even a table for the manager to sit on. Not even a chair for the tour guide to sit on to go rounds. And you know what people are doing there? They are playing spa. People are playing spa at Tetekwashi. When you are heading towards, you don't know Tetekwashi Cocoa Farm? You get to Mampong, the police station. When you get to Mampong police station, just ask anybody. And because they are not taking good care of the place, you hardly see it. You see a very small signboard. And the road that leads to the place, Masa, forget it. Even Kwabenya, Obon Road is better. So you can imagine. Yet, when we sit in Accra, we talk about cocoa. When you go, you don't even see chocolate. People, when you are entering such places, you should see vendors selling products of what you are going to see there. If students visit the place, they should be able to have, cocoa drink. They should have chocolate. But there is nothing. But we keep preaching. Ghana, we have cocoa. Look at what has happened. Chinese people have just taken over the market. And we are here talking about Minerals Fund. Minerals Fund, Kwame. the Mineral Act, Minerals Commission Act, what does it say? If you want to mine in Ghana, there are so many things, processes you need to go through. If you go through these processes rightly, Kwame, I believe that nobody will tell you to donate into the fund before you do. But because they don't take them through the right procedure, people always get away with it. Yet we have people who have been appointed as board chair, we have people who have been appointed as CEO for various mineral commissions, yet they don't do their work. All that they do is to sit in Accra and then be in an air-conditioned room, take paper, put pen on it, and instruct.
Board meetings.
After when I go for board meeting, I'll get my per diem. So instead of maybe having board meeting twice a month, I can decide to, sanction 4 times a month. And the people out there, where people are doing this mining, go to the mining communities, Kwame. Go to where they do proper mining and look at their towns. Go to Bogoso, go to Obuasi. All these areas are areas where gold, precious minerals are coming from. But look at the condition of the people there. For me, I always say that when somebody comes to your country to mine, the stakeholders who are involved, they are the people who are leading the community into ditch. Because what consultations do they have with the people? Most of the times when they come, like a company comes all the way from Britain. Because they are coming from Britain, the Nananom will sit down, bring some youth leaders, come with people from Minerals Commission, market women, then they will pick people who at the end of the day, they can agree with them on terms and say, look, the people can take 2 or 3 people to Europe. The moment they hear Europe, that's it. I am going to Europe. And then the Nananom will say, oh, we need a community center. Master, for crying loud. A community center, people will come and take your precious minerals, make millions of money, and then all that you demand for is a community center. Is a community center going to provide food for your people? Sometimes market centers are being demolished. Where roads need to be constructed, they will not talk about it. But you see, when somebody sits in Accra and authorize that, look, this mining site, we have given them papers, and so Nananom agree so that allow them to mine. It is up to the Nananom to also sit up and say, look, if you don't do A, B, C, D for us, we will not allow you because you are coming to their town. That is why sometimes you see that most of these mining communities, there are conflicts, because in as much as the people in Accra will authorize the Nananom to agree, Nananom will not agree to it. And it will tend to power play. I have the power, I should be able to control, and I have the land. But for me, let's look at the corporate social responsibility of every company that comes to mine in Ghana. We need not to tell them that you need to set up a fund. It is part of the corporate social responsibility. But we have just let it go. So anybody comes at all and say, oh, for me, I'm going to mine in Ghana. And then at the end of the day, they will take millions of our money to their country. And then we are still remaining at where we are. Look at the mining communities. Look at their road. Just look at what happened at Apieti. If indeed the mining companies over there have what it takes, they have been able to donate huge sums of money into this fund, will the government be sitting somewhere and be making lala and be making appeal for fund? No. They will just go into the fund, pick up whatever money that they have, construct the roads. Now, government is looking for money somewhere to be able to construct the road. Monies that can construct Adosu to Tinkon Road, they are going to use it to construct Apietu Road. Meanwhile, people at Apietu should be able to benefit from the mining activities that's going on. So for me, we don't need any chief executive officer to come and tell us that there should be a fund. It should be amended. And it's not even supposed to be amended because it's part of the requirements. How much are you going to donate into the fund at the end of every month, every quarter? Let us have it before they come and start. Because you know that, look, if after every 3 months I need to pay $100 million into the fund, if you don't pay, you owe. That's it. And that can take care of people at the mining communities, because it is becoming too much. People are just misusing our lands. They just get away with it. Look at our river bodies. All these mining, activities has made drinking water, even we can't get potable drinking water to drink. But in those days, Master, we can just go to the farm. When there's a river, you can just fetch some and drink. These days, try it and see. You either go back to the hospital or you have a running stomach. And so we need to look at, amend our mining act, let it be tight, strict, so that people who come into our country to mine will know that, look, the country that I'm going to do my mining activities, this ABCD is their requirement.
Absolutely.
If I'm not able to meet that requirement, forget it. Absolutely. After all, you can't go to China and say you are going to do something without going through their requirement or what they expect of you to do. But Ghana here, because somebody just wants some money into his pocket, he will sit somewhere, sign and say, I have approved. Then they will begin using either the force, the security agencies. How can a whole mining site, you go there and all the people you see there are in military uniform? Are they on the war zone? No. We are all trying to get money to be able to build the country. But somebody somewhere want to chop all alone. Master, we need to look at our mining act and make it look strict for people to know that, look, when I'm going to Ghana to mine, Master, it is not a joke.
As always, thank you. Brilliant submission. Just one and two. Doc.
Thank you. With the mineral fund is one of the things I have said a few times that when I was a little younger, one of my saddest moments was one of my exciting moments was when I was told that we are going to have a program in Obuasi. Our school was going to have a program in Obuasi. So I was excited. I said I wanted to go and see Obuasi. With the knowledge of Johannesburg as the world's first class mining and Ghana being second. So like I was pitching what I was going to see. So there was nothing that was going to make me not attend that trip. I was bent on going. And when I got to Obuasi, I was like, is this the second world-class mining town we are talking about? When Johannesburg in pictures is like street of gold, you understand? So it brings back to the point that whatever they extract from our country, they rob us so much. The Mineral Commission has failed us. The local people of Obuasi and this environment had also look at Anglo Gold Asante, what he did. The period of its boost mining times. What did they do? Their roads, there was no first class. For instance, Obuasi Sector was not pitched to be one of the country's best secondary schools in terms of structures and presentation and everything. Even the teachers could have even been given some additional something to make the school one of the best in terms of academic laurels. Looking at what extractions come from those places in Obuasi, their roads were so bad, they don't have any serious water stuff there, which they could even have their own water treatment center by the resources from the minerals. And all these things come to the point that we don't help to enforce laws that can better our lives, because there's nothing that the government should not even use any of its national resources in terms of taxes to develop any mining zone. The mining community must be made to take care of their roads, their hospitals, their water system, and all their education and all those things, because there's a lot of money from minerals. And looking at the Johannesburg I mentioned as an example of a place where they mine, and looking at the lifestyle there, the kind of roads they have, the kind of infrastructure from their mining communities, it leaves much to be desired when we talk about Ghana as a place where we have gold in Obuasi, we have some in Bogoso and all those places. I think sometime last year or last 2 years, I think one of the mining companies around Bogoso did think about, is it a 9 to 12 kilometer road, something they did in those areas, and it was commendable. What was different from all other people who were also mining in similar communities, like the Apieti incident, it was supposed to be a mining resource which was supposed to resettle them and not to make the government suffer, to mobilizing funds to helping the community anyway. So if it is something that has come now per the Chamber of Mines CEO, it is worth ensuring that it's implemented, because any day you feel an awakening, it's not too late to start something. But the enforcement, when they have started something, what are they going to establish? What is the percentage of resources coming from the returns in the mining, for which must be used for local development before any other thing is taken care of? And what is the enforcement part to ensure that if these things have been extracted from these areas, these are the returns on it. This is the percentage that must go to the community to develop it, and this must go to the government as taxes. And their social corporate responsibilities can now be something they can be pinned down, not for them to make it a discretionary thing. Any other thing which is discretionary may be outside the box. They have to be made to pay certain things to ensure that these are done, the roads are constructed, hospitals are upgraded, schools are improved, and the lifestyle of the people, the percentage of people who have to be employed within the community, all these things must be seen to be happening. And that is what we are lacking. Right. And we need a strong political will to ensure that these are going on. And the people, the citizens must also force the commissions to ensure that these things are taken care of, so that we can improve your life. Because you can look at, when we were talking about the Galamsey thing and we are fighting, anybody who had done all those things, look at the kind of lifestyle they live. They know there's a lot of money from, even the small scale mining guys are able to make so much money. So if you are a large scale miner, it is proportionally relative that they should be able to make more money to make sure that the people's lifestyle are improved.
All right.
And we are lacking it. And when it comes to the cocoa industry thing we are talking about, and the Tetekwashi thing you suggested, I think Ministry of Tourism must take it up immediately. Because some of the, you see, the sad part is that when somebody had identified some of these prospects and want to come in, the bureaucracy that comes with it. Now somebody wants to make himself a champion. Oh, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. But if Tetekwashi's place is a place to talk about, there should be cocoa. There should be when you go to Cocoa Research Institute at Tafo, one of the amazing places I went to work, and I loved what I saw. From the root to the leaf of cocoa, nothing is a waste. Trust me, nothing is a waste. So we have the cocoa. They have the buttercream. They have the cocoa soap. They have the feed for poultry and livestock. They have the cocoa powder we eat, the chocolate, and all those things from it. And we had sample. When we had gone there we went on an internship while I was in the university. I was at Cape Poly. We went there for internship for 3 months. When we're going back, we were given liquid soap, we were given bar soap, we were given cocoa chocolate, we were given, all these things were made from the Cocoa Research Institute. And so why can't they magnify it? What is the difficulty? Okay. These are things we can do, and you're not helping us.
Thank you, Doc. Let me come to you, Prince Mahmoud Idrisu, on this matter.
Okay, I think that something is wrong with Africa, but something much bigger is wrong with Ghana. Why am I saying this? If you take a careful look at what we are discussing this morning, especially on this particular topic, we are looking at the Minerals Development Fund, right? Which is Act 912, 2016. Why were we called Gold Coast some 60 plus years ago? We're called Gold Coast largely because of the existence of minerals, especially gold, in abundance on our land. And it will have to take us that long, 70 plus years, to have an act which is dedicated to the fund management aspect of the minerals. That's sad, and that's why I'm saying that something much bigger is wrong with Ghana. Keode, look, Doc made mention of Obuasi, trying to use Obuasi as an example. I was born and bred in Obuasi.
I see.
I grew up in Obuasi, and my father was a miner. So I can agree with you how you felt on that single occasion you came to Obuasi. Nothing has changed. Go to Obuasi. Use the road from Bekwai Junction to Obuasi, and you'll be shocked at the terrible state of which Obuasi still looks. In the 80s, when I was in Obuasi growing up, I visit there regularly now, and nothing practically has changed about that town. It's still the same old Obuasi that we know. You see, sometimes it's best some of these institutions don't exist. Like Minerals Commission, blah, 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 blah. Cocoa Board. Maybe because we are talking about Minerals Commission, I want to limit it to Cocoa Board. You understand? It's best.
Listen, we are having, and I like what you said.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's best.
Yes.
That some of these institutions do not exist.
That's
what
I'm saying.
The
Look,
amount the CEO is taking.
Yes, amount.
The sad aspect of it is that I just want to use Obuasi as a case study. You go to Obuasi, visit where the ordinary workers are staying, the cottages at Wawase and those things. It is being swallowed by sand. If you go up hills, that's where the foreigner stays. And I mean, fantastic residence for them to stay. Just on the go, it tells you that it's a trouble. The AGC hospital in Obuasi, nothing new has come to add up to it. It's still the same AGC Obuasi hospital that we were all born several years ago.
It should have been a teaching hospital by now.
Yes, and you see, but come to think of it, KOD. Let's look at it from a larger perspective. What percentage do we get as a country from revenues accrued from this mining sector?
18%.
I'm not too sure about
18%.
that. And if I thought you wouldn't have mentioned it.
You're a wicked man. You want something smaller. It's 18%.
You see, if you look at the mathematics, the divisions, the statistics that go into this 18%, and what is left for us as royalties.
We'll be infinitesimal.
Are you getting the point? And the sad aspect of it was that today's government is still bent on mortgaging that little that we have through Ejapa. That's the sad aspect of it. And that is why I'm happy my political party I belong to, the NDC in Parliament, fought it tooth and nail. So that at least the little that we are getting from it shouldn't be mortgaged for a few to benefit when the country will now just be by name Ghana with a lot of minerals and nothing to write home about. Let's look at the drama that surrounded the bauxite prospecting somewhere in Eastern region. What drama didn't we see? With Zoom Lion company, a subsidiary company of that, going into the drama, the unfortunate incidents that came out of there. At the end of the day, talking about Chinese taking some monies here and there. And look, sometimes the sad aspect of it is that, like I indicated earlier on, it's best when sometimes it doesn't exist. Why are we having this latest conversation around Minerals Commission and what these mining companies are supposed to do for the benefiting communities? Is because of this recent Apiate incident. Apiate incident, sorry. It's just because of that. That is what has generated all these conversations around it now. And that takes me back to my earlier position that as a country, I don't know what really is wrong with us. We wait for these problems to come, then we pretend as if we are going in to solve here and there. The most important thing is that as far as this minerals thing is concerned, we have failed ourselves woefully as a country. And go to all these mining communities. Look at the level of devastation to the environment. What is the level at which these lands are reclaimed? The policies around land reclamation, what is happening to it? We hear it in the news, 100 million or millions of trees are going to be planted. If you visit these sites, it's the same thing. Day in and day out, Ghana Water Company increases their charges just because they are finding it difficult to process water for us to drink, largely because of mining activities. What are we doing about that as a country? So for me, I think that it's a good call in it. I mean, it's a good call anyway from the Chamber of Mines CEO that much effort needs to be made. Once upon a time, this act was not there. That was supposed to regulate the fine distribution of these resources. It wasn't there. Today we have it. The managers of these funds must, first of all, look at the communities that directly generate these revenues for us. And look, finally, KOD, why won't our people agitate? Why won't our people agitate? We have a very fertile grounds for instability to generate in this country through those areas. Because look, why should our community, why should our town generate so much revenue for government, and yet we are the least developed? If you go to Nigeria, you go to their oil production sector, states that produce crude oil. Why do we have these militants creating a lot of troubles there? It didn't fall from the skies. It came as a result of total neglect from successive governments in making sure that at least people are enlightened. They know largely that this country, in terms of our export and everything, we rely so much on when we talk about agriculture, cocoa production takes a chunk of that percentage. People grow this cocoa and they pass it on for production and some export. We also know that it's also through these minerals. What are we doing? Those people know that literally what they produce, or what government comes to extract, or what companies come to extract from their communities, largely is what is used to fund activities or developmental projects within this country. And yet they are not seeing anything. Right. It's easy for them to take arms, which we don't pray for. Right. Thank you.
The little thing I want to chip in is it that Ghana that does not see that there is a need for lobbyists to be working on such arrangements? Because you see, some developed nations, they invest in lobbyists. The essence of it is that when somebody is coming in with a proposal for mining, there should be a proper negotiator who is devoid of what his pocket is going to get after what he's been paid for negotiation. Then they negotiate appropriately. This percentage goes to government, this percentage does this, this percentage does this, and then they make sure that these are ensured. And we have to invest in people too.
They will tell you that we want to whip up investor interest, and so they would not want to create too many bottlenecks.
It's not a bottleneck. If you want to do a proper investor interest, a lobbyist is the best person to even make sure that the forum is open for people who are serious-minded and want to invest and get proper returns. And because you see, no matter how much you want to sell yourself, somebody is willing to bargain for beating down the cost. If you sell yourself for 1 cedi, they will negotiate to bring it. If you sell yourself the same offer, if you take it for 20 cedis, the person will ask for reduction. So the person who is asking for 1 cedi, when it's reduced, is going to point something. If you ask 20 cedis and it's reduced, it's coming to 17, 18, 19.
Let's proceed.
You understand? So that's a proper negotiation.
Let's proceed.
Lobbyists are corrupt.
Yeah, let's proceed. Let's proceed. Let's proceed. All right. I didn't follow. Lately, I hardly ever watched the president. I'm being honest.
Oh, why?
Yeah.
Are you fed up?
I don't know. I'm just...
Be a nationalist, at least.
I'm a nationalist. I respect the Ghana flag. And I respect the coat of arms. I respect the constitution, which is the spirit and the letter of the people. It's an embodiment of the people.
And the
president is a representative or representation of the people.
Sure.
but who does not serve the interest of the generality of the Ghanaian?
No.
So for me, that's all.
It's not-
How many NDC, for instance, or CPP? Let me not use NDC. How many CPP people do we find in government today?
CPP people do we find in government today? Do we need to find CPP people? Because listen, when you ask me,
that's a good question.
When you ask me this question, my point is that my stance is that anybody who opposes your intentions of holding a position should not be given the opportunity.
No.
This your
statement is dangerous.
It's not dangerous.
It's
Listen,
dangerous.
It's not
Thank you
dangerous.
very much.
It's not dangerous because
So
You see why we will never
why would you say?
So when I
So
say
you want praise singers around
not
you?
person. No.
Praise singers.
so
Simple.
then when I say that the president does not serve the generality of the interests of the Ghanaian people, you understand now?
No, I don't understand because you don't have to be a minister to champion the
No,
cause.
he didn't make reference to ministerial
No.
position. It's not minister.
No, he said in government.
In government.
And it's not only ministers.
What position?
There's other positions.
Like you mention one. Mention one. Because
CEOs of state institutions.
Yes, CEOs of
government
state
appointees.
institutions.
yes, they are government
Yeah,
appointees.
but they are not in cabinet.
Yeah.
They are not cabinet.
And the
members.
only position I quite remember.
Ambassador at large.
Ambassador at large.
Yeah.
But even now, he's more of large than.
But did you believe in that position anyway?
But you see, if you say that, if I tell you that I hardly ever want the president now, I have my reasons.
Yeah.
No, I don't dispute that.
Absolutely.
I was just,
And it is not in any way to disrespect the president. Like I said, I don't hate the president. You read that. I don't hate the president. But I just don't like the things he does.
Well,
I don't hate him personally as a human being. I cannot hate him.
It's a repetition of most of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
It's a
when I hear him speak, I just.
It's a repetition.
I'm sure. Look, I'm sure even some members in your own party are not. When they hear him,
what would you rather?
let me say. Yes, sir.
Would you rather want to hear a first-hand information than
But the president himself.
a reported adulteration for you to convince yourself of something? But I would rather want to listen to him and make.
If I
my
want
own
to hear
judgment.
first-hand information, I'll listen to the medical doctors and not the president. In respect of COVID-19.
That's it.
But the president is not an expert in that field. He is briefed
That's right.
as to what to say. How he communicates that which has been told him is a different matter.
Yeah.
We have political communication
That's right.
and we
Okay.
have expert communication.
Okay.
The expert will tell you as it is.
Okay.
The politician will embellish it, make it a little palatable,
Add more spices.
add spice it, and present it to the people as though all is well and good. So that is why I'm saying that when I hear them, if I want first-hand information, I'd rather go to the experts for them to tell me what the situation is.
You think so?
Absolutely. I don't want to live. If we're talking about security, for instance, I'd rather go to maybe the IGP or the CEO or you.
He does the
Don't take us away from this. We will talk about it, so don't take us away from it.
Let me remind my beautiful viewers that we're still live on Facebook. The Facebook page is very much active, and you can share with us what your thoughts are via Facebook, and we will read it all here for you. We're still in the studios with Desmond Nana Into, as well as Prince Mahmoud Idrisu, a member of the NDC Communications team, and Dr. Francis Che, SPC retired, member of the MPP's Communications team. It's always a delight to have these wonderful gentlemen spend time with us in the studios. We have dispensed with ECOWAS, we've dispensed with what has been captured in the form of daily graphic newspapers, mineral commission, etc. Now we have to look at COVID-19. But before that, let me say a special good morning to the general manager of Ridge Royal Hotel, Mr. Samuel Obri Ediama, who has managed that hotel very effectively and in a very delightful manner. You know, Ridge Royal is now seen as a private hotel, even though it's supposed to be a government hotel. You manage the thing well. Sam, good morning and kudos to you. And also good morning to my JSS teacher, Mr. Udlo. Mr. Odro, who used to beat me, social studies teacher. Come on, it's your trust you well. And no. I'm part of the family. Anyway, so I'm a damn
It's good.
Police officer.
It's good to have
police
a
officer will
dad. Yeah.
You know, when I was in a senior high school in Achimasa. I'll come to your story, don't worry.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was a footballer actually at the time. I used to play football from Asante Mampo. I used to play
striker or midfielder.
Wings 11.
Okay.
So when I came from Asante Mampo, when I came from Asante Mampo, you know, in Asante Mampo I was playing Kumapim. I was the only young boy to have joined Kumapim.
Wow.
So when we came to Achimasa for, my dad asked me just one question. Because I used to go for training, I had my football boots, Hey, Charlie said 2 things. It's either you focus on education and go to university, or have you seen the carpenter who is just here? That as for that one, I'll just go. I'm a policeman. I'll just tell Charlie, which everybody said, yeah, carpentry work.
That's all.
So I sat down one evening. I was there. Then there was a certain guy who lived behind our house. He liked football. I said, "What's your shoe size?"
Pass it on.
He was here. I said, "You know what?" So I just handed over my boots to him, and that was the end.
That's right.
So my father gave me an option: carpenter, university. I said, "I like university."
Sure.
So that's how we moved from Achimasa for senior high school to K University. It wasn't easy. But right now we have a lot of my, you know, my young, the people who came before us and after us. Some of them have completed Legon, UST. But actually the best university in the world is K University. So yeah.
Which is disputed.
Well, you can dispute it with your brains. You can have that argument with your brains. Yeah, but K University is undeniably
the best
and inarguably.
Disputed.
No.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing your dad put you there because my dad also gave me the same thing.
There's an option.
He said the whole Ghana. If you are a footballer, the whole Ghana, let's max it. We can take more than 50 players on the Ghana team.
Yeah.
But if we can get people to
my players, some of my colleagues who used to play with me, I remember Yaosodi, Ekwekumoti and all those guys. They used to play for Goldfields and all. They went far. But of course, they were not able to play for the national team. Maybe I would have been able to play for the national team. And I would have been booed like Jordan Ayew.
Ghana population at 30 million. You can still have doctors. 20 million.
I've realized that Dr. Che doesn't want us to discuss the next topic.
No,
we will discuss the next topic. 28th COVID-19 update. Ghana opens borders. Face masks no longer mandatory. President Nana Akufo-Addo. I'll start with you, Prince, but my issue really goes beyond this superficial rhetoric. It goes beyond this because a lot of the Ghanaian people who lived in Togo, who lived in Burkina Faso, who lived in Ivory Coast at the time, in my estimation, have suffered grave injustice, if truly they are Ghanaians, because of the kind of treatment meted out to them by reason of sanctions given by government or imposed by government. So my submission really goes beyond this rhetoric of, we've opened borders and face masks, no longer blah. Those things are not the substantive matters I want addressed. I want us to move beyond this, because now the borders have been opened. First of all, we know that it's going to bring money, because now the government is broke. So intertrade will begin, and people, all of that is fine. But the substantive matter for me is it to now say that all the Ghanaians who were locked up in Sierra Leone, Liberia, who were unable to come into the country to vote in 2020, is it 2020 election, will now be allowed, so to speak, to register and have their voters ID card and subsequently get their Ghana national ID card so that they can exercise their franchise without fear or favor. I mean, let me start with you, Prince. I'm looking beyond, beyond this narrative. I mean, this narrative is just superficial.
I would have done same even if you didn't push me.
Okay. So I've read your mind.
It will be
I have supernatural. Then I told you need me to win the coups seat. Ekropon seat. Now I'm a soothsayer.
I would have done that and very harmless and with no malice. But just to start with, I think I share in your position when you say that you really nowadays don't want to listen to the president. Yesterday I was with my boss lawyer Mutiu Rahman. When it was around 7:15 p.m., then I told him that I had to go and watch the president's address to the nation. He told me I should better go because I can't watch it in his room. What it means is that he was not ready to even tune to it to allow me to watch it. So I had to immediately vacate his room. But that tells you how despondent people are with our president. Look, we actually didn't expect him to be speaking yesterday in the manner he did. We expected him to go to Parliament where he is mandated by the Constitution to go and address us, speak to general and key issues affecting the day-to-day activities in this country. He should be a man, as he is, and he should be bold. Look, a leader, one of the qualities of a good leader is that you ought to be decisive and bold. Even when it is not good for you, but you just have to face it. But it's clear that the president is maneuvering his way around not to do what is constitutionally mandated of him to do, just because he knows that the situation is not good for him to address us. We are equally not forgetting that it was part of his style to regularly meet the media, even though in a very cooked formula, but he used to met the media from time to time to address Ghanaians also through the media, even though it took a different form from what former President John Dramani Mahama used to do, where you could see real interactive session with the president. He's also run away from that. Maybe Dr. Che may tell us why all these two things are missing, and we'll have to be faced with a recorded, straightforward reading of the news to rest that we had yesterday. Look, the way, and in his usual best, he was just praising himself and the government for managing COVID so well. Mm-hmm. If you are too quick to praise yourself, it means there is a problem. Allow people to judge you. Those you are ruling, those that you, develop those supposed measures for, allow them to measure you. And if you just do a quick rewind of what happened, transpired from, I think March 2020 was the first time we recorded our first case in Ghana. Absolutely. Up to yesterday that he addressed us. The way and manner they manage COVID, when I say they, the government headed by President Nana Akufo-Addo, made it look like a fake situation we had at hand. So if you just did a random sampling across, you will realize that most Ghanaians actually did not believe there was COVID. Look, fast forward, whilst the president had, in a brutal and a military fashion, closed borders, land borders and sea borders, his political party, the MPP, was at a free will in doing their reorganization in 2020. At a point that innocent pastors who were preaching the word of God and providing some salvation to the citizenry were being imprisoned under that so-called COVID-19 whatever regulations. The president and his team were fighting at various conferences of MPP. Fist-cuffed. What is of more body contact? Comparing what happened during the MPP conferences in 2019 and what that innocent pastor was doing in Kumasi. The manner in which the borders were closed raised serious eyebrows. At a point, it looked as if there was war in Burkina, Togo, and our neighboring countries. That our president was, even today, that Burkina is under siege. Our borders, I'm from a town, a part of the country that borders Burkina. We don't see military men around there patrolling like we used to have during the COVID time. And you don't tell me that COVID is more dangerous than a possible spillover of a coup d'etat. Recently, sadly, an immigration officer was shot dead around the Burkina-Hamle border by smugglers. It tells you how weak the security system there is now, because the president possibly has achieved his aim. Critical questions asked by KOD. What happens to those people? It was clear, it manifested beyond any doubt that the president did not close the borders because of COVID. It was clear. We had, three entry routes in the country: the air system, the sea, and the land. You open the air borders, put in measures, even though those measures were very corrupt, siphoning the mega resources of innocent citizens that are traveling. Very corrupt. You opened it, you put in measures to at least allow people to flow through. And yet you said, as for the land borders, it was just a no-no area for you. What was the justification? Is it that genuinely you couldn't have any measures put in place so that at the time that we were declining from the peak, so-called peak of COVID, is it that you couldn't, in the same spirit that you opened the air border, and you remember the fashion at which the air borders were open, if we've not forgotten. It was open around the time that the MPP was to organize their conferences in 2000, when most of their delegates were seen outside the country. The first flights that came in through the Kotoka International Airport after the opening of the air borders was largely MPP members who were flown from different countries into this country just to come and do what? To participate in their internal primaries. Yet we know, I'm a bit familiar with the, especially the Aflao border, because most of the times I'm in Volta region. Look, it is obvious that the government rake in a lot of revenue through that border. You needed revenue. You had a major source of raking it in. If not for political and personal reasons, was it necessary for the president to do what they did? And at that time, if you go to Ketu South, any part of Ketu South, you could by chance count no less than 10 armed military men around the border. It was just clear people were brutalized even around those borders. We saw in the news, videos, and other evidence that came up. It was, it manifested in a very clear sense that the president did not do that because of COVID, but he did that just because of 2020 general elections. Why are these things being said? The reason came out, the evidence came out clear that they were able to achieve their master plan. Let's suppress the voter population of a particular constituency. And you see, these things are not just mere allegations, because his own cousin or whoever that he is, Gabi Ochredakun, gave an indication that he still doesn't understand why Ketu South should be the largest in terms of numerical strength, the constituency in the country, and something needs to be done. And immediately he said that armed men were deployed to that area in a very Rambo style. They achieved their aim. K.O., your question as to what happens to them. Is it a different Ghana? You are expecting something to happen to them, or the same Nana Akufo-Addo Ghana? Nothing absolutely will come out of it. We've lost it already. Now it has been opened. But in reality, if you go to those land borders, what was happening there was also another eyesore. Just recently on a sister station, I monitored an investigative journalism piece that they did along the Ketu border. And it was clear that some few officers were also cashing in through the supposed closure of the border. Because by then, people were allowed through illegal entry and illegal exit, and some monies were being collected, and these things were investigated, and it came up. The sad issue is that what was supposed to be a pandemic globally turned out to be a fertile ground for President Nana Akufo-Addo and his government to do the unthinkable to us. Through COVID, a lot of revenues were mobilized, some through donations, some through grants, some through loans, and so on and so forth. The president is addressing us for the 28th time, if I'm not wrong. And the president and his government is woefully refusing to account to the people how those funds were, how much was accrued, how much was disbursed, how much is left, how much are we having as a deficit. This president and the government is not ready to do that for us. So come to tell us that we shouldn't wear nose masks again. In fact, we had stopped wearing it for long. Because your actions and inactions gave a clear indication that there was really nothing. Because if that was the situation as other countries experienced it, you won't have the president use our sovereignty, go in for loans, go in for grants, add businesses to contribute to a fund that was created by you, and these monies were shared like granules. The COVID fund was shared literally like granules.
Conclude for me.
KOD, I will conclude by saying that we are not a happy people. We are a sad group of people. So that explains why people will not even want to listen to the president. We wish that we are not faced with such a challenge again, which will be a fertile ground for the government to steal us again. But they should be ready still to account for what they use those monies for. The borders that has been open, I'm very certain that it will continue to inure to the benefit of our brothers who are trading along those routes.
Well, thank you very much. Nanato, I'll end it with our brother.
Kwame.
Yes, sir.
It's not easy, Kwame.
Easy.
Easy. You see, for me, I think that the MPP government is trying to buy time. Just after their retreat at Peduase, the information minister has spoken. What came out from that retreat, information minister came out with it. Then, finance minister has also spoken. Then, we have the president almost saying the same thing.
Strategy. It's working.
So, you see, clearly, it tells you that they are just trying to buy time. And you see, what the president said yesterday, the president failed to tell Ghanaians the number of vaccines they have acquired as a nation. Then again, this same president promised us in February 2021 that by July 2021, 20 million people are going to be vaccinated.
That is a fact.
He came back in July telling us that by December, 20 million Ghanaians are going to be vaccinated. As we speak, how many people has been vaccinated? We have still the health minister at post. Even though there was shoddy deals in trying to procure these vaccines, we still have him at post. It is only in Ghana that when we see a corrupt official, we either we remove him from one position and place him at another, or we still maintain him and allow him to proceed on leave and come back after 2 weeks and continue with his work. It is only in Ghana. And you see, The president himself has forgotten that Ghana, our population is just 30.8 million. He had made a promise. So I was expecting the president to tell us, look, the 20 million that I promised in 2021, it couldn't materialize. Still 2021 December, I couldn't meet the target. And so now, this is the number of vaccines we have. If you know you have not been vaccinated, just go to your nearby or the nearest hospital and get vaccinated. He didn't talk about that. Then he was talking about Agenda 111. And then I said, Mr. President, you are telling us that the country is broke and that we should tighten our belt and that you are even going to reduce the size of your government, including the pay. Where are you going to get money to build this Agenda 111 that you are promising us that by the time you leave office, you will make sure you commission them? Mr. President, the promises are becoming too much. I mean, that is why some people don't even want to listen to the president when he's speaking. Because some of these promises cannot materialize. Let's be truthful. There are various hospitals across the country. Why don't you just upgrade it? If you upgrade it, what will happen? Ridge Hospital has been upgraded. Is that not it? It's still there. Now you are telling us that you are going to start a new hospital entirely from scratch. You and I know there's no money. Yet you are promising us that you are going to build this hospital. Even the COVID funds that you collected, you have not been able to account for it. In fact, if you have been able to account for it and say that this COVID fund, 1 million of the amount is going into this hospital, we will spare you. But you didn't even say anything about it. All that you are telling us is that the usual campaign promises. He thought he was still going for an election. That's what I see. Because at some point, he was now trying to praise himself, like the way Kwame was saying. We've been able to do this. Meanwhile, the lockdown, he was talking about the lockdown. You and I know people were fed with oil rice. Oil rice. And you spent almost 52 million Ghana cedis on just 2 weeks lockdown. You have not even account for any monies. And yet, you are there, promising again. At this moment, you are still promising. I thought from the experiences that we have now, the current government is going to shift from promises to come and beg. But rather, they are on their way, promising again. I mean, they have not even seen the hardship that is going on. See, they spent 600,000 to go and cut salt for this Agenda 111. Over a year now in Kumasi. They moved various chiefs from their various palaces. All this involves money. And over a year, nothing has been done. The president didn't even talk about it.
As a presidential chair.
Can you imagine? That sits in a whole Land Cruiser. It sits in a whole Land Cruiser with a bodyguard guarding a chair.
With
spending the money left, right, center.
Pure water and everything.
And then at the end of the day, you come back and tell us that, look, we need to cut down our expenses.
Nanto, have you ever seen a presidential chair that has bottled water?
In fact, in the history.
In its car before.
I'm surprised. It's only in Ghana.
Yes.
It's only in Ghana.
Nando's chair has pure water.
And you see, I'm surprised. If even he's going to visit his family, he goes with a chair.
Yes.
I don't know what is in that chair. I'm surprised.
Are you the president?
Oh, no. But
Mahama said, let's have this conversation when you become president. This is the president he's talking about.
Well, so Kwame.
Yes, ma'am.
Before Dr. Che comes in, the president has to stop promising us. We are fed up with the promises. In fact, the monies that they have spent, we have not seen anything that has come out from those monies. The COVID monies that they got a lot of money. What they use the money for is only between them and God.
Okay.
For now, we need to know the number of people who has been vaccinated. And then before I conclude, how much did Frontier at airport give to the nation.
All right.
After taking $150, $50 from every person who is either coming or going.
So Ghana gets what?
10%. $10.
$10 or something like that.
How can somebody charge you 150 and you get just peanuts? And then you claim you are going to build. Meanwhile, you are using your own resources. They are using your airport. The people, the workmanship, the people who are working are being Noguchi people. So why didn't you give the contract to Noguchi? The money stays in Ghana. Sometimes I ask, in simple common sense is not common and simple to some old men. I don't understand why. Why?
That's on Nana into.
You have to
This is becoming too much. Why?
when the old man has an interest, when the old man has an
We do not know
he
what
throws the
interest.
wisdom away.
No, we don't know what interest you are referring to. Haja Hamdatu Ibrahim says, I can go to Lagos by road. Alhamdulillah. Good morning to you all. Hey, Haja, I sure you go to Lagos by road.
Oh, but going by road is good though. She can, yeah. But I'll go to Lagos by road all the time.
It's safe.
Oh, it's safe. It's safe. It's safe.
Especially maybe with STC.
Oh, no, in fact, when you are driving, that is where it's not safe. But when you are going with a public transport, it's safe.
Are you?
Because you get to Nigeria and they will ask you to pay almost about $10,000 before your vehicle can enter.
$10,000?
Yes.
Oh, how is that possible?
Yes, I went to
In Africa.
private.
$10,000.
That is it. Oh yes.
Are you making? I haven't to pay for duty.
No, what you see, the point is that when we were going, we were supposed to have done some ECOWAS tax and we didn't do
Or maybe
that.
it was a fine.
Because we thought we could go through political. But when we got there, they said, hey, different your country, different our country. Before your car can be able to move,
What
deposit
kind of
this
foolishness is
amount.
this? See, we live in Africa, but you can't drive your car freely.
No, that's why I'm saying that ECOWAS is on paper.
ECOWAS is saying threatening to sanction Burkina Faso. Doesn't make sense.
The EU
Yeah.
allows member countries.
The immigration, they told us, look, if you want to drive in the street of Lagos, pay this amount down, or else you park your car. So we need to park the car at the border.
Go and come and get it or pay.
Pay and then move with the car. Knowing very well that we don't have that amount on us.
Dr. you have just some few minutes
Yes.
left, and I know you don't like to talk much. So.
I'd like to talk a little about the COVID and the briefing we had yesterday, and the clearance, the borders that have been opened, and the good things that comes with it, because cross-country trade and all these things are going to be facilitated. People are going to move freely from one country to the other. Let's not lose sight of the fact that when there's a pandemic, there's always supposed to be stringent measures that has to be taken, and then these are the things that went through what we went through to ensure. We have always taken for granted what we are enjoying in terms of the rate at which COVID could not overwhelm us. It hasn't been easy. But when Prince was talking about money, right, and the payments thereof, when in the course of time, I think last year, I went to the States, and then I had to do the COVID test, which is bringing me down. The test I ordered for tests from 3 organizations. One of them was charging $297. The other was $269, and another was $234. All these 3 tests, they could not even give it to me the next day. But when I had my test in the University of the Noguchi, it was sent to me via electronically. Within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, I had it before I traveled, which was about, I think, 300 cedis. I paid 300 and something cedis for Ghana when I was traveling. And I got it within 24 hours. When I was charged these numbers, these amounts in the States, they could not guarantee I was going to get it the next day before I flew, because it was going to take me more than 24 hours to get here, because I was coming with a BA. And so sometimes when we don't have the comparative values, we think that it's a little exploitative to pay certain money somewhere. But we have systems which have given us better results than where we thought Western world would have done better. You understand? So some of these things, we have to appreciate that these things have also guarded us and safeguarded the people of Ghana from us to getting an overwhelming COVID situation, to the point that these days, the government, the president has also told us, henceforth, it is not mandatory to be wearing mask, because they have realized that, yes, it has been an ease, and there's been, you know, these vaccination, as you mentioned, the vaccination you mentioned with the data and all those things, I feel that that is ministry and department result things, because if the president has told us some modalities, he said if you haven't had the vaccination, there are certain things you cannot do. If you have had the vaccination, there are certain things, so you are being entreated to go get it, because they haven't stopped the vaccination yet.
We knew the Ministry of Health has the data, and yet he was able to tell us that he was going to make sure by July 20 million are going to be vaccinated.
But you see, the subject of his brief should not always be what, because I have something I would have expected him to say. You have something you would have expected him to say. Somebody else has something. But then, after having given us all these things, there are legitimate questions you have raised that he didn't tell us how many have vaccinated. Yes, I don't begrudge you for that. Okay. But I'm saying that we have ministry reports on certain things. So the ministry would also be helping us with certain information as time goes on, because some of the briefings come in at a time when we need certain things. He's talking about closure, reopening of borders, the modalities for which we have to follow to benefit from this. If you're a national, you have completely been vaccinated, you don't need to pay anything to come in again. If you haven't had it, you have to have a 24-hour, 48-hour results to come in, and all these things. These are guidelines to prevent certain things from coming in. Because some people were getting, you remember, some people were arrested with falsified results coming in. If we had left it open, what would have happened? They would have come in to infest us some more. So some of these things, when we see it, we should see it in a good light of making sure that certain things are safeguarded. Not normally, I don't understand why, consciously or with common sense, if you pay 300 Ghana, you can get a genuine result. Then you go and pay 200 Ghana and get a fake result, to come and pay another extra money and probably a penalty, which will cost you even more. Doesn't make sense. But people would want to cut corners at any point in time. People think they are smarter, but in the end, they tend to be failures. You understand? So these are things we have to applaud the president for, making sure that some of these modalities were taken. KOD was asking about people who are disenfranchised, and for which reason is it possible they are going to be roped in. EC does continuous registration, and so as and when
EC
they
doesn't do continuous.
What
we have is not a continuous.
Hopefully they won't
It's a periodic.
Okay,
it's not we have other systems that run continuous. That run immediately. You
all right, I'm about to go.
We have periodic registration, so people will go through it before the peak time to ensure robbing the 18 people and anybody who might have been disenfranchised at the point when he was not in the country.
Let's go. Time is up. 3 minutes.
Yeah, time is up. But you see, on a more serious note, this fuel price and 10 and the 15 pesos deduction on a liter is terrible.
It's laughable.
It's terrible.
I think that the Ghanaian people are
terrible. So you can imagine that a whole gallon of fuel.
You are promising somebody. You promise the person on 1st April. Meanwhile, there's April Fool days around the corner. So
no, but you see, you look. At the rate you see, that's why I'm saying that all these things.
Thank you.
All these things are
Mahmoud Idrisu, member NDC Communications team. Join us all the way from we are appreciative of your time. Thank you. By the way, Mr. Pratt likes your submissions.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's all you know. That's all you know. And Dr. Francis Che, SPC retired. Thank you. It's always a delight to see you. I trust you are happy that you are back on air.
Very, very happy.
Absolutely. Desmond Ananto.
Yes, man.
Thank you, my chief farmer. I'll see you. I'll see you when I see you. But let me send a voice of appreciation to all our cherished viewers across the length and breadth of this country, the nook and cranny of this country, for the support. We appreciate you. This morning has been very, very exceptional. I've enjoyed all my panelists, and I trust that you enjoyed them as well. Let conscience always guide our actions and inactions. It's very important that whatever it is that we do, we pack our conscience behind our actions. It is important that in governance, we place the people before us and do things which will inure to their benefit, as opposed to our own parochial interests. This is an advice to President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Do what is best in the interest of the Ghanaian people, and not in the interest of your family members, your friends, and your wife's friends, and your wife. Let's serve Ghana to the best of our ability. I love you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.